Time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod. I'm your host, Josh, and boy, it is a slow time for Star Wars right now. But you know what? We're gonna bear through it. We're gonna keep watching Clone Wars. We're gonna keep putting those out for you guys. But real quick, Battlefront 2 has double XP going on right now if you're playing that. And also, we got a new format in our description box, so you can follow along with the Clone Wars at home a lot more easy with those hyperlinks now set up to activate the episodes when you smash that link. And yeah, other than that, we got Diego meeting us in the cantina, so let's go over and meet him up.
Another happy landing.
All right, welcome back.
Thanks to be that. Thanks. Glad to be back.
Having one of those days.
Yeah,
huh?
having one of those days.
Let's just get closer here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just watched the next two Clone Wars episodes. We did Weapons Factory landing at Point Rain and Weapons Factory.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are two, I guess. Last time we talked about like Senate Spy, right? Mm-hmm. Where Padme went to the undercover and did the whole kind of stealing of those plans to the Geonosis factory, the droid factory. Yeah, Clovis, Senator Clovis, whatever, who was conspiracizing with the what's the right word there?
He's like he's in cahoots with the separatists.
Yeah, he's in cahoots with the with the Seppies.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So she grabs the plans and they get the plans back to the Republic and to the Jedi Council, and now basically these first two episodes were 2 out of like kind of 4. So that one with Padme Senate Spy was like the prelude, and then these two that we just watched are the first half of like a giant arc, which is basically just like the campaign for Geonosis again.
Right.
Because the last time we saw Geonosis was in Attack of the Clones, which was Star Wars Episode 2, like the live action film.
Yeah.
Which predecesses this show. So there's a nice little comment from Obi-Wan about it. It was like at the beginning of the first episode when Cody's asking him about Geonosis, or Obi-Wan asks him about it, and Cody's like, I didn't take part in that first battle, and then Obi-Wan's just like, oh well, you didn't miss much. I was just strapped to a pole and almost eaten by some giant creatures. Just like so it was good. It was good. I like those callbacks.
Yes.
But was there anything in this first episode though that's kind of stood out to you? It was very action packed, so not a lot of like crazy character development there, but we did see Ki-Adi-Mundi for the first time in action. The only time we've seen him in action is
on Geonosis.
On Geonosis, yeah.
And during Order 66.
And during Order 66, right? His death scene.
Yeah.
So how did you like him and his kind of style and his clone force and all that?
I like his troopers. They have some nice armor. They've got that flamethrower setup going, which is pretty sweet. I don't know. It's cool because we don't really we don't really see much of him other than those 2 instances. But he's got his stuff down. He's not like no rookie in a sense. He's definitely good at what he does.
Yeah, for sure. He comes across as like this wise kind of
very
figure, very calm, very wise.
Yeah,
we're a wise guy.
Knows what he's doing, keeps to himself, but like when it's time to,
he's got 2 brains in that head.
Yeah. Got room for him too.
Yeah, exactly. I really like his Commander Jet. All their armor. He's got the gray, all the helmets are very similar to I believe it's I think there was another Clone Force that has very similar helmets. I think it was in the very, very first episode. We had the episode called Cat and Mouse. It was like the first thing that we watched, and it was Anakin leading a bunch of clones against this giant separatist ship, and Admiral Trench, that spider guy, it was a game of like cat and mouse, basically. He was just like avoiding all the missiles on that stealth ship that he had, like the experimental like stealth ship, and then eventually he, tricked the missiles into blowing up that big separatist cruiser, and then he was able to go down to the surface and help Bail Organa and stuff like that, right? So this is going all the way back to the beginning, but I think there was 2 clones in that ship that were kind of like submarine style troopers, like they were kind of monitoring all the stuff on the inside the ship. I think those guys had the same helmets. So yeah, these are like gear that we've seen before, but so I don't really know what Ki-Adi-Mundi's like Legion does, but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they got flamethrowers, so that's pretty sweet.
He's got some flame troopers, yeah, which is really cool. And oh yeah, and those guys, you saw what they were wearing, right?
Yeah,
like they were wearing like the
camo.
They were wearing the same gear that the clones wore on that ice planet. So they got the masks and everything. It was the same model and everything. It was just kind of retextured to be kind of flame looking, which is kind of cool because the flame troopers from the First Order and the snow troopers, I think they do some kind of like things in common there as well, but in their helmet, I think from the new movies. Not that you care, but
yeah, I couldn't care less about those abortions, but anyways.
Oh my goodness. So we got an episode of like action with Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and they basically kind of like broke through the enemy lines, met up at a certain location. Obi-Wan almost died. We had a little appearance from Waxer and Boyle, 2 clones, a bit of a more favorite bunch of clones on Obi-Wan's 222nd battalion. And Waxer and Boyle, one of them I think is either which one is it now? I think it might be Waxer. I don't know. He's got the tattoo on the side of his helmet of what did I say her name was?
Mona? No, Numa.
Numa or something?
Yeah, I think it was Numa.
Maybe
yeah.
Numa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the little Twi'lek girl that they befriended before on in one of those previous episodes. I think it was the campaign on the last big 4-part campaign, which was for Ryloth. So almost 20 episodes ago or whatever at this point. But yeah, it was kind of cool to see them again. But I think like the bigger kind of reveal in the second episode is when you really get Luminar Unduli and Barriss Offee, who Barriss kind of is actually a really big player like later on in the show. But she kind of meets Ahsoka in this episode and befriends her. And Luminar Unduli, who we just saw, we saw those two at Geonosis before in Attack of the Clones, like whip out their lightsabers in the big crowd, and
that's pretty much it.
That was pretty much it. Yeah. So it was kind of cool to see them in action. And Luminar Unduli, like, how would you describe her character?
Also similar to Ki-Adi-Mundi in the sense that she's very very calm, wise. She looks younger, but like she's very straight to the point, knows what she's doing, and like just
business.
But at the same time, she's one of those characters that you can tell she definitely thinks.
The calculating.
Yeah, she calculates every little thing she does, especially in battle before she goes into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas Anakin is kind of, let's see what happens, kind of thing. And
he just
wings it. Like
he just wings it. He's a lot more improvised.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and he's a lot more confrontational. So did you notice like the relationship between Ahsoka and Anakin, like bantering back and forth?
Oh yeah.
And then
it's like they're married.
Yeah, exactly. And then Luminar Unduli comes in with Barriss, and she kind of like whispers over at Barris and goes like, oh, they're kind of known for this, and
Yeah.
you know, like whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then when they come up, it's just like, oh, like there's this solid respect between the master and the apprentice in this relationship. But then if you look at Anakin and Ahsoka, it's like they're just butting heads all the time, because she's just this peppy little kind of person with you know, way too much ego about her, that, you know, she's overly confident and everything like that.
Yeah.
But and then Anakin is exactly the same way, because when you look at what he's like in Attack of the Clones, you know, honestly, and Hayden Christensen gets a lot of flack for playing the Anakin Skywalker, because, you know, people say, oh, he's wooden. He's like, he played this arrogant kid that was just like yelling all the time and super like, you know, obnoxious and, you know, like just whiny, right? Like this is Ahsoka. Like this is Ahsoka at this point in time. Like it's mirroring the intentional character of Anakin Skywalker, right, like in the prequels, right?
Right.
At least in episode 2. Episode 3 opens up in a very different like pace, right? Like his character's a lot more serious. He's a lot more, you know, patient and a lot darker.
Yeah.
And
it gets progressively
and war,
darker.
yeah, and war has scarred this kid who started off being this, you know, this guy who wanted more and more and more, and now he's still that guy, but he's almost on the top, but he still wants more, and he's still hungry for more power, right? Which is kind of like his character, but yeah, like Ahsoka is like very overly confident in her abilities, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, she's a commander at this point, and she's like leading their briefing, and then Anakin keeps interjecting, and then she gets really ticked off, and you know, it's just like a constant thing going on. But you still don't like her character at this point?
No, not really. I mean, like she's cool, I guess, but not.
She's getting better, you think?
Yeah, she's getting better, but she's still not. She hasn't grown on me yet.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Just wait. Yeah. No. At this point, she hadn't really grown on me too much either. But yeah. No. That's kind of like the main focus of the episode, is just like how it brought the master. Like it was more like a trust thing, right?
Yeah.
Just like Anakin's growth in like having to trust Ahsoka with the tasks that he gives her, right? It's because the relationship goes both ways, right? Like as a student, you're relying upon the master to teach everything they know, so that you could be the best you can be, right? Mm-hmm. This is also the same with Obi-Wan and Anakin in episode 3. Like you get that little piece where Obi-Wan says, "Oh, Anakin, I've taught you everything I know. You know, you've become a far greater Jedi than I could ever hope to be." And it kind of like is the optimistic upside of like Palpatine's little flair that he talks about that Sith, you know, the Darth Plagueis story, and how, you know, he taught his apprentice everything he knew, then his apprentice killed him in his sleep, you know? Yeah. Like it's kind of like mirroring, like paralleling that, but now we get this kind of earlier on, and it's like, oh, like what is that relationship that's talked about by Obi-Wan entail, right? Well, it's like it really is like, you know, it's an apprenticeship, and you are an apprentice, right? Like by trade, and so you are reliant upon, you know, other people to teach you what you need to know to advance yourself, right?
Yeah.
So it is the same way with the Jedi, right? Like the master and the apprentice, like, and that is it. Like they're like if that relationship doesn't get along, then they're hooped, right?
Yeah.
I'm currently reading Master and Apprentice. It's taking me ages to get through this, but it's a book about Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. I'm going to do a full episode based upon this because there's so much gold in there. But like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan did not always get along at all. Like there's definitely like relational struggles there, like to the point where you know, Obi-Wan is like, oh, Qui-Gon doesn't want me as an apprentice anymore, and Qui-Gon is doubting his ability to teach Obi-Wan in a way because they're not synchronized, like mentally, you know, like it's an issue for them, right?
Right.
And if you get a lot of that butting head between master and apprentice, it's like, how does that relationship work, and how does that benefit the student, right? or the master, because like Anakin's problem is that he can't let go of people close to him, right? So not only is he struggling with trusting Ahsoka to carry out these tasks, but he's also like very personally like attached to the well-being of her life, right? If something were to happen to her, it would be greatly affected, which is something that Yoda, it's what I mentioned to you earlier, like just like foreshadowed in like in the film, like in the theatrical release. He's like, well, like, you know, Anakin's biggest problem is going to be let go of his apprentice, and you know, Luminar unduly brings this up in this very episode as well. So there's a lot of like, you know, I don't want to kind of give everything away, but like there's a lot of foreshadowing, obviously, because she doesn't show up in the movies. So there's a lot of foreshadowing that like Anakin's not going to be around Ahsoka by the time of Revenge of the Sith. So yeah, but I don't know. Was there anything that stood out to you? Pieces of tech?
As far as dialogue goes, not a whole lot. I mean, these two episodes is just it's an action scene, and it's pretty awesome. You know,
it's pretty cool. It's like the highest budget episodes that I think we've seen so far in the show.
Yeah,
right?
totally. Like, I mean, like not a whole lot of talking. It's just kind of like you said, building trust and stuff like that. But yeah, it's mainly action. Action's always good. But like I was saying to you earlier, it's still so crazy to just think that, you know, George Lucas came up with all this stuff in his head, like one guy, right? So it's just crazy. Like, how do you? Oh,
it's insane.
You know,
I was even thinking about that when you hear the Geonosians talk. It's like you know, like,
like who thinks of that? Like, right? Like,
like that kind of like clicking is something that's used in some African languages, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, super kind of out there, and it's like, man, like Star Wars, it's based in like our reality. Like that's always been the case. Like even back to 1977, when all the ships were kind of loosely based off of like, you know, vehicles in our real world that was then kind of translated into this universe, right? And it's like even the cultural aspects of some of these cultures in Star Wars and like the languages they speak and everything, like even those have got real world influence. It's not all just science fiction, right? Like there's so much kind of driving Star Wars from our real world, which like it just like helps connect it, right? Like the connective tissue there is so relatable because, you know, it feels familiar because, like, you know, we obviously, do you hear that?
Yeah, that's my phone going off. Yeah, that's just me getting
choo train.
Yeah, that's just my text ringtone.
Jeez. Okay. So yeah, you know, you're right. Like big action episodes here and there, but I don't know. What did you think of some of the tech that we saw? Like, because we got these super tanks that showed up, which we've never seen before.
Yeah.
We had what else? Yeah, I don't know. Like,
I think that was pretty much it. Like the tanks, were
kind of the secret weapon surprise that showed up, which then didn't really last.
Like
that long.
Impenetrable armor and whatnot, which is not a new idea to Star Wars by any means, but just this particular ship we don't really see it, and then the Anakin and what's her nuts, they go underneath this bridge that there's like, I don't know, maybe 10 or so of these ships lined up, impenetrable armor.
Yeah.
And they both go under the bridge. They put a couple mines there, and then they get on the other side of the bridge, click, and they all fall down. Yeah. So it's like, impenetrable armor, but gravity always wins. Like,
they just fall down and blow up.
Yeah.
I know, it's Anakin style.
Oh yeah.
It was like visually appealing episodes. Like, believe it or not, though, like this level of quality is the kind of the quality that you get later on almost all the time.
Yeah.
Like that's how like visually that's where the benchmark gets to, kind of thing, right? Like, so now you kind of see it's like, oh yeah, no, like visually, like appealing wise, like animation wise and everything, like the show's like improving as time goes by.
Definitely.
So
even just from season 1 to season 2, like you can definitely see.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Little snippets of episodes in season 1 that quite frankly looks like a PS2 game.
Yeah, like that downfall of a droid arc. I think I mentioned it when we were watching that. I was like, look at that. Like, look at all that. Like, the shaders don't look good. Like the animation's really like kind of jittery, and I was like, yeah, it just doesn't look great. You know, it just doesn't hold up nearly as well as some of these episodes here, and even these ones aren't as good as the ones like later on.
No, I'll bet.
So so it's kind of crazy, but the budget for these is pretty high. I think that was why the show got canceled right when Disney bought the company, because like it just wasn't really making much. I guess like there was very minor profit involved with the show that they were just putting out, and you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, George is a filmmaker who wants to tell a story. He wanted to tell, you know, the story of the Clone Wars, right? So the best way to do that was through animated TV show, because it was like the best budget-wise possible like way to do it, right? But at the same time, it's like he's a filmmaker who wants to tell a story, and he's not going to let anything get in his way of doing that. So like not money, not nothing, right? So he's done it before, and he keeps persisting to do that. So, but of course, you know, corporate businessmen don't see it that way. Like they're like, oh, this isn't making us any money. Like it's making us like, you know, zilch. Yeah. Let's just get rid of it. Right?
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Like, you know, George Lucas was always in every project he did, like he was always more in the mindset of quality versus quantity. Whereas Disney is quite obviously, you know, the other way around, quantity versus quality, right?
Yeah, sometimes it definitely feels that way. Other times it's like, I think, okay, they definitely do want to go for the quality, but it's normally quality with a balance of quantity, you know, like almost like milking the franchise until there's nothing left to get kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So like we've definitely seen that with like Star Wars Resistance, the TV show. I wasn't a huge fan of that. I could definitely tell it was one of those things that just wasn't really planned super well, and even though it was like semi well like written enough for the age group it was designed for, it was just very cheap feeling, didn't feel like an authentic Star Wars show at all.
Yeah.
You know, and it was canceled after 2 seasons, right? Mm-hmm. So naturally it's like, okay, they could have had this keep going, but they didn't. And it's like, yeah, it's just because they didn't have that many people watching it. It's like, you know, Clone Wars is one of those shows that like very few times do shows come back from the dead. And this was a show that was resurrected for fans because fans love it so much, right? Like they only putting out 12 episodes, and they're kind of shuffling story priority around to get these 12 episodes out as quote on like a final season, so to say. But at least it's something, you know, at least it's something that we're going to get, or that we are getting. And, you know, I've been keeping on it like weekly. Mm-hmm. You're not at that point in the show, but
no, not yet.
Yeah. So we got a little clip here. I want to start playing these once in a while. Just a little featurette webisode on StarWars.com. If you're not using the links in the description to get to that page and watch that featurette, we're just going to start playing them here, or maybe some of them, the ones that kind of have a little more relevance. But I'm going to play 1 or 2 of them here. Just Dave Filoni kind of talking about, supervising director Dave Filoni of the show, just talking about the challenges and just briefly kind of like the significance of some of the plot lines of these episodes. So here we go.
You just make sure you get yourself to that landing zone in one piece.
I shall be waiting for you when you finally arrive.
Gentlemen, if you are quite finished, we have a battle to begin.
Landing on Point Rain is a very basic story. I mean, they're basically going to land, they're going to get shot down, and then it's a matter of survival to see if they can get to Obi-Wan Kenobi in time.
Last time I was chained to a pole and attacked by several humongous monsters.
That sounds entertaining.
What you see is not what originally the story was about. George said this was going to be a D-Day attack on Geonosis. We thought we had it working to a pretty good point, and George started watching it, and all of a sudden, there's a tremendous amount of work to do.
I cannot believe we're back here again.
It is unfortunate.
Remember that scene in Return of the Jedi when Darth Vader comes to the Death Star at the very beginning? I'm kind of like the Darth Vader on the show, I will admit.
I'm here to put you back on schedule.
And the episodic director is kind of like Moff Jerjerrod.
I need more men.
And then George comes in, the Emperor comes in, completely destroyed our Death Star. We build a new Death Star, a whole other episode, a new episode within the schedule.
That won't be easy.
We'll have to catch up.
I always talk about the great job the episode directors, the story artists, the designers did, but the production team on the Clone Wars is the best. Everybody had to knuckle down and deliver on this, and they did. I still don't know how they did it.
Good luck, General.
There is no such thing as luck.
There's no one way to make a Clone Wars episode. Every episode has unique challenges. George had brought over all this live action footage. Battle of the Bulge, The Longest Day, Black Hawk Down, Saving Private Ryan. We recut the episodes using live action footage, old Clone Wars episodes, portions we had shot for this episode, and we just amalgamated this whole thing together. We had all this aerial footage from World War II cut in and with the Geonosis fighters and stuff. And Brian and I are just looking at this, going like, boy, if we could do this, this would be really awesome.
Rex, we need to mobilize now!
For all the ways we did not blow anything up in Senate Spy, the romance episodes, all that bottled up, like, come on, this is Star Wars. But it sure comes out in Landing on Point Range.
Ready? Now!
I have always wanted to do a scene at the Jedi Temple where the kids are practicing cutting shapes. I think circles are the most often cut shape, but Barriss cuts a square. I have no idea why. Maybe because she's a bit more square than Ahsoka. There must be a scene somewhere where Yoda's teaching these kids, and they have like a target shape they're supposed to cut, and some of the kids are cutting circles, but they're more like ovals, and he's like, no, that's not a good circle. You know, some of the kids are cutting squares, and it ends up like a rhombus, and he's like, no, that's bad shape. I mean, do they get judged on that kind of thing? Is that part of their Jedi training? I mean, she cuts a pretty nice rectangle.
Nice work.
I mean, it's got like 90-degree corners. It's very impressive. Duel of droids. We got a duel of droids. Ahsoka cuts this hole in this grate and jumps onto a vulture droid. It's like a perfect circle. I mean, the muscle control, you ever try to draw a perfect circle? It's almost impossible. So when you think of it for a human being, why cut a circle? You create all that extra space. Why not cut a square? You can walk through it easier. So maybe Barriss is just on it. She's kind of like a shape revolutionist.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us for Star Wars Escape Pod, Clone Wars Talk. And, always great to have Diego back with us. And, hopefully, get some use out of us hearing some of these featurettes. I'm just grabbing these off the StarWars.com website. So if you're kind of paying attention to the way that our descriptions are working now for these Clone Wars Talk episodes, you'll notice that if you're using an app that supports hyperlinks, there might be a link that you can click. If not, it might have some random text about the episode and how you can stream it on Disney Plus and whatever. And you might not know what that's all about. It's because the links aren't working, but that's okay. I'm gonna try and do this where I play the featurettes themselves right here on the show. And hopefully that's not a problem, like legally, but they're like fun little kind of like 1 or 2 minute web things that they're online. They're on StarWars.com. They're on YouTube, whatever. I'm pretty sure it's cool if we just play them right here. No one needs to know. But yeah, let us know what you want to do. Let us know drop us a suggestion on our Twitter feed at SW Escape Podcast or the escapepod at outlook.com. Send us a voice memo, whatever. Just shoot us some feedback. You want to hear these Dave Filoni featurettes at the end? Do you not? Do you want more episodes, Clone Wars in a podcast episode, or do you like the two at once kind of thing? Just let us know. Cool. Thanks for listening, guys. May the Force be with you.